Guys, I want to tell you about our friends over at Frost Buddy. It is drinkware engineered to keep your beverages exactly how you want them. Whether you're heading out for an adventure or just powering through your day, Frost Buddy's flagship product, the Universal Buddy, replaces the need for multiple can coolers by fitting virtually every 12-ounce and 16-ounce can bottle you drink, sodas and seltzers to coffee and sparkling water, all in a single versatile design. Constructed with high quality double walled stainless steel and thoughtful features like a flexible silicone lid and a tapered shape that fits most cup holders, Frost Buddy keeps drinks cold for 12 hours and hot for up to 6 hours. So you get consistent temperature control, whether it's an iced drink on a hot afternoon or a hot coffee on the drive to work. Built to last, field tested for durability, and backed by a 30-day return policy, Frost Buddy makes everyday moments from tailgates and beach days to backyard cookouts and commutes more enjoyable. Going over and click the link below and use promo code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase when you visit our friends over at frostbuddy.com. And when you use that promo code SSS15. Are you tired of spending upwards of $7 to $8 on coffees that are full of sugar and high in fat? Well, look no further than Chike Nutrition, the brand redefining what coffee can do for your day. Chike Nutrition combines the rich, familiar taste of real coffee with 20 grams of high-quality protein and the energy of 2 shots of espresso, giving you both fuel and function in every scoop. Available in a variety of crave-worthy flavors like mocha, caramel, vanilla, and many more, Chike delivers smooth, cafe-style iced coffee that mixes instantly with water or your favorite milk, with no clunky blender or complicated prep needed. Each serving is designed to be low in sugar, packed with protein, and loaded with real espresso, so that you can get a sustained energy that helps power your morning, workout, or busy afternoon without the crash that comes from sugary coffee drinks. Whether you're looking for better nutrition in your coffee routine or a smarter way to stay energized and full longer, Chike makes it simple. Scoop, shake, sip, and enjoy. If you want to take advantage of the new year and get in the best shape of your life, click the link below and get yourself 10% off of your first order over at ChikeNutrition.com. All right, we are live once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Southern Sports Scene. We're on episode 35. Can you believe it? We've been doing this for this long. I am your host, as always, Lucas Hill. Y'all do us a favor, as always. Like, share, subscribe down below. Turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live, posting a video or posting a short here on the Southern Sports Scene. Every live show brought to you by our good friends over at Frost Buddy. Going over to frostbuddy.com. Use that promo code SSS15 to get yourself 15% off of your first purchase. That is code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase. Also, thank you to our friends over at Chike Nutrition. 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of sugar. You can get the everyday started with a healthy, hearty cup of coffee. And why not do it with the best coffee available on the market? All right. Do we have a lot to talk about tonight? We have had a lot of developments with the Brennan Sorsby situation. We'll kind of break it down more. There has been a lot in regards to what Florida should be being hyped up as, but I am still skeptical, as I typically am, of Florida most of the time. So I will try not to be fooled. However, I do believe that there is something that John Summerall is going to do that is unlike any other coach that Florida has had since the end of the Urban Meyer era. I'll tell you what that is. And man, we're going to have a lot to talk about tonight. So once again, guys, like, share, subscribe down below. Turn on the bell notifications. Let's get after it. Before we get into any of that, we got to talk about Jameson Williams, that all of a sudden is now suing the NCAA, the Big Ten, and the SEC over NIL her compensation all the way back in 2021. So, really? Here's my thing. Jameson Williams hasn't been in the NFL, or has been in the NFL now for 4 years. He hasn't been in college since 2021. Whenever he left, NIL wasn't a thing for him. So, well, I say that, and it was in its first year of its infancy. But here is the thing. So the suit says that it's for financial or similar gain or reason without his consent and or proper compensation. To date, Williams has received no fair compensation from defendants for the full commercial value of his name, image, and likeness. Defendants continuously financially benefited from Jameson Williams' name, image, and likeness rights, while also doing so without providing him with just compensation. Let me just tell you this. This is going to get thrown out. I don't see this even getting close to being a legitimate case. This makes no sense. I have a very, very hard time believing that he's going to get the reimbursement. But here's the thing. The NCAA barred student athletes from profiting off their name until the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against it in the O'Bannon versus NCAA decision in the summer of 2021. So apparently they're violating a lot of antitrust lawsuits and all this other stuff. And there's a lot of people that are thinking, well, is this going to be the end of EA Sports? Is this going to be it? No. Why would it be? In my personal opinion, this lawsuit makes almost no sense. I believe that he's seeing the amount of money that some of these guys are getting right now, and he says, hey, man, I think this might be a quick buck for me. When in all honesty, this makes no sense. Jameson Williams is making a lot of money in the NFL. And didn't he just sign an extension? How does this make any sense? He signed a 3-year contract worth $83 million in 2024. He's making $83 million. And he's going to sue? How does this make any sense? And I understand that. Here's the thing. This is going to change anything, everything, when it comes to college athletics and how media kind of spins it. And the back end, he got to cash in on NIL. That was good. Now he wants more. If he does win, suing the NCAA and the SEC is one thing. You can sue anybody for anything. If he wins this changed college sports forever. This changed the media forever. Anyone who's faced and used anything is going to be liable for compensation. Guess what? That means video games. So how long will EA Sports College Football be around? This doesn't feel like this just doesn't make anything. Well, this doesn't make any sense. Here's what I thought. I thought the issue was already settled. And in my opinion, I just think that he wants an extra check for no reason. He's got to be able to provide evidence that he needed this type of compensation. And the fact that this is 4 years later, do you think that maybe this is a bit cause for skepticism and questions to be asked? Like, hold on a minute, dude. You're making $83 million right now. You were around when NIL was in its infancy, in its first full year. You got paid, bro. You were a star player at Bama. You got it. And I think the reason why is because he wants bigger, more, another paycheck. That's just my opinion. His backing behind why he's suing two conferences and the NCAA itself, it don't make any sense. If he wins this, though, this is ridiculous. Because this is a stupid lawsuit. Extremely stupid. We had to deal with this all the way back when Ed O'Banion first was complaining about this in video games. How many times are we going to have to circle this freaking horse around again? I feel like a broken record. How stupid are these lawsuits getting? This is a great example of one. You're suing two conferences and an NCAA. It makes no sense, dude. It just doesn't. I don't think he's going to win his lawsuit. If he does, it's a broken freaking system. It is. And remember, when NIL was first agreed to, the NCAA agreed to pay $2.8 billion in back pay to any athlete that was playing an NCAA sanctioned sport back all the way towards 2016. Jameson Williams is not in that freaking group. Excuse me, I think he is back in all the way from 2016 on. He's in this group and he's getting paid through NIL, and it's legal. So why is he suing? This is so freaking stupid. But oh, man. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous, man. But again, this is something that we're going to have to deal with, and I expect more of these types of lawsuits to ensue. Because who knows? I think Jameson Williams just wants another paycheck. But if I'm his agent, I'm telling him, what are you doing, son? You're making a ton of money right now. You want to sue for, well, what's your reason behind your lawsuit? What makes no sense? So I do believe that this is something that's going to get thrown out. I think it would make a lot of sense if they do. But again, I'm not controlling the court system, man. Doesn't make sense. That's just my opinion. All right. Let's talk about some other things that we got to talk about tonight. Let's talk about the Heisman Trophy. And I know that we are a long time from this ceremony and really kind of the Heisman talk from really starting. But I did kind of want to briefly mention this. Drake Lindsay, one of the Big Ten's best quarterbacks and best returning quarterbacks, I should say, was arrested earlier for DUI and underage drinking or having a fake ID and underage alcohol consumption while he was back in Fayetteville. Once again, Minnesota is aware and they will follow suit. He was taken to the detention center, signed a form for a minor in possession of alcohol, attempted use of fraudulent or altered identification document, released after 7 hours, posted a $470 bond. So, again, Drake Lindsay looked really good this past year. How does this affect Minnesota at the end of the day? I do expect him to at least have a bit of a suspension. Maybe he'll be suspended for like half a game or a full game or so, but I don't think anything really big should come out of this. Drake Lindsay is one of the more talented quarterbacks in the Big Ten, and I think that he's going to continue to develop at a high rate. I think he has a very, very bright future ahead of him. I think his arm talent is off the charts. I think the way that he commands an offense is going to really exceed all of expectations and what people expect of him. And I think, as a captain, he knows better. Won 8 games this past year. You'd like to see him do a little bit more. Let's see what him paired up with another great offensive coordinator in Greg Harbaugh now that he's the full-time OC. Let's see what they do when it is all said and done. So, again, not too concerning in my opinion. Not very, very big news. But, again, this is very, very notable, especially when you're talking about one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. And a team in Minnesota that I think could exceed expectations, crazy as it sounds. So we'll have a State of the Program series on Minnesota, and we'll have our conference State of the Programs within the next few months, and we'll kind of get rocking and rolling with that as well. I want to take a look at the latest odds for the Heisman Trophy according to the FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, 2026, CJ Carr is the plus 750 favorite to win the Heisman Trophy this year. He is followed by Arch Manning at plus 800, Trinidad Chambliss at plus 1100. You have a three-way tie at plus 1200 with Julian Sayin, Josh Hoover, and Dante Moore. Darian Menza and Jeremiah Smith at plus 13. Gunnar Stockton at plus 16. Sam Levitt at 2,000. And Jaden Mayava and Marcel Reed at plus 2,700. I want to talk about some of the names that I don't think people are really talking about this year, and some guys that I think with a revamped offense, they can do some really, really good things this year. And I want to start off first with Damon Williams. The NIL situation is behind him, and now we can push forward. The biggest question, though, is what the running back room is going to look like for Washington. We'll obviously have our State of the Program series on that pretty soon. But again, Damon Williams coming off of a spectacular fresh sophomore season, first full year as a starter, 9-4, 3,000 yards passing, just under 70% completion percentage, 25-8 touchdown to interception ratio, and added 6 touchdowns on the ground. One of the elite quarterbacks in the Big Ten, and I think a guy that's primed to have another big season in 2026. Watch out for Washington this year. And it sucks that Jimmy Daugherty is no longer with the program. He's now with the Seahawks as an offensive assistant. Obviously, him and Jedd Fisch had some differences between the two. But Jedd Fisch now taking over as the primary play caller. I don't think it really affects anything. I think Fisch is going to put him into a position where he is going to have a lot of success throwing the football. And I think that's what his bread and butter has always been. I think he's a guy that is extremely accurate, knows how to throw the deep ball, and a guy that I really believe is going to find ways to dominate. It's bottom line. The biggest question mark around Washington, though, is going to be their running backs. They've been dealing with some injuries throughout the year. You lost Jonah Coleman to the NFL draft. Jordan Washington is out indefinitely with a neck injury. Had to get taken off the field in an ambulance. Adam Muhammad is now at Cal. And then after that, that's really about it. Jaden Lemar and Trey Cooley are both out with injuries. So now when you're talking about two guys that have been dealing with injury, and you have, so much adversity so far throughout this offseason, does that affect his Heisman odds? And it shouldn't. I think that Damon Williams, with this, he's going to be the guy that's going to run this offense. The offense eventually revolves around his game. And I think he's got an elite receiving core despite losing guys like Denzel Boston to the NFL draft. I think Washington, from an offensive perspective, is still going to be Washington when it is all said and done. I think that Jedd Fisch's play calling has been one of the best so far this past year. I think that from an offensive perspective, they're going to be really good. Make no mistake about that. They're going to be just fine. When Jordan Washington gets back healthy, he's one of the most impressive players that you will see step onto the football field. A guy that was playing at Long Beach, Jordan, coming out of high school, transfers in from Arizona with Jedd Fisch. And I think that he's been waiting his turn, being very, very patient, and now he's finally going to get a chance. He's got breakaway speed that is ridiculous. Had a 100-yard game this past year against Purdue. Got a decent bit of carries all the way up until the Purdue up until the last couple games of the regular season. Did finally get some touches in the bowl game. He's going to be running back one by the time that they get to the start of the season. Make no mistake about that. I have all the confidence in a guy like him to tote the load. Damon Williams knows the offense, and he's been doing really, really well throughout the offseason. Guys, he's talked a lot about guys that are going to get open a lot, the guys that are very competitive throughout spring camp. He's been able to be very confident despite with guys getting banged up. You have guys that are stepping up for the program. And he said this, when your number is called, be ready to go. And we have tons of depth this year to go in and make a run. I like that he has this confidence. That's why I trust a guy like him at the end of the day. I also want to kind of touch on a guy like that had not as good stats, but they're Heisman favorites over him. And that could be John Mateer. John Mateer, before he got injured, was an elite quarterback, was a guy that I thought could be in the running for a Heisman Trophy. If he's fully healthy this year, make no mistake about it, Oklahoma is going to have a Heisman favorite in number 10. I have liked this kid ever since he first stepped onto the field in Norman, Oklahoma. He is the guy. And I know that he got a lot of heat this past season because of his play. Guys, if he is healthy, he is the best quarterback in the SEC. And he can become that this year if he is fully healthy. Make no mistake about that. I like John Mateer, and I think that there's a lot of people that want a quarterback like him and a guy that is going to have a freaking field day when it is all said and done. All right. I also want to mention two more names before we move on. Will Hammond from Texas Tech's odds went from all the way to plus 5,500. I'm not ready to put my money on that just yet. That's just a side note, by the way. But two quarterbacks. Ready? Rocco Becht from Penn State is a guy that I really, really like. I thought he was one of the Big 12's best quarterbacks the last 3 years as a starter. Had a down year this past year. Offensive line really let him down throughout the season. Got sacked a lot. Didn't carry the football as much as he likes to at times. But you get a guy that has a good offensive line around him. He can scramble, and he can make plays with his feet. We've seen it happen before. He's going to do it, and he's going to make a big difference. So, see what happens with that Penn State offense with a revamped offensive line, and how does his game translate from the Big 12 all the way into the Big 10 now. Another player that's a Big 12 guy that I have been saying should be a Heisman contender since the end of his redshirt freshman year, and that is Noah Fifita. I wish he was in college football for another season because, man, oh man, are we sleeping on him. I'm telling you, there is nobody better and nobody that is more prepared to take on the role as a Heisman contender than Noah Fifita. He's a damn good football player. I really believe that. And what he has done ever since that offense showed significant improvement after you fired Dino Babers, which was a disaster of a hire, by the way. They should have never done it in the first place. You hire Seth Doge from Marshall. What does he do? He revamps that offense. He gets Noah Fafita's confidence back. He encourages him to scramble. And guess what? Fafita made some big plays. That Holiday Bowl, where despite them getting down early, you know what they did? They went to the ground game sometimes with Fafita getting out of the pocket and scrambling, and he was able to make big plays with his feet. Even though you have guys like Ismail Mahdi, who was one of the best running backs on the team this past year. Sucks that you're not getting him again in 2026. You'd have liked to have had him back, but is what it is. But that's a story for another day. Arizona's passing attack is going to be dangerous, as they always are. And be ready. Be ready when I come back on here and I say, I told you so. When I tell you that he is going to make a freaking difference for this offense. He's going to be really good. He's going to have more chances to be the leader of that offense than he ever has, if he isn't already. The receiving core is not as good as it was when you have guys like Tedderosha McMillan. But damn, that offense looks really good. He's got a consistent coordinator. Seth Doge is still there. I think Seth Doge is a future offensive coordinator, in my opinion. Dude, he's been around the best. Was a Mike Leach quarterback. Was with Lincoln Riley for a couple years at USC. Coached with Lane Kiffin. I think he was with Graham Harrell as an offensive coordinator. So he knows. He knows. He's a very, very smart play caller. He's learned from the best, and he will continue to learn for the best. So, really excited to see what he has to offer. I really, really like him. All right. Want to continue on. We went from sleeper Heismans, and now I want to talk about some sleeper college football teams that we may not be talking about at this point in time. I put out a video the other day that I thought that Iowa was a dark horse contender to be a college football playoff contender. Crazy as it sounds, I know, but I got a lot of good responses from that. People believe that that is the case. So when we talk about some other teams that we may have discussed, there's a Big Ten team that I think right now people are about to look at, and they're going to be amazed at how much of a 180 Not necessarily a 180. Think about what they're going to do with the amount of talent that came into their backyard. I really think Washington is one. But guys, we're severely sleeping. We are really, really about to sleep on Michigan. I don't think people are talking about Michigan at this point in time. I really don't. Michigan with the new head coach and Kyle Whittingham, you bring in Jason Beck and you bring in Jay Hill as your defensive coordinator. Now, would I have liked it if you had been able to keep Wink Martindale? Or yes, absolutely. Sucks that he's not in coaching at this point in time. What does his future look like? Man, I hope he's still a head coach in the future. But again, we'll see. I think that people were expecting him to go. I'll be honest, wasn't a big fan of it. But Michigan early on, you get Oklahoma at home. You get Iowa at home. You have the Little Brown Jug. You play Penn State. Indiana at home is this game that you have to circle. If Michigan can start the season at least 7-1 or 5-2, I'll say actually not 7-1. 6-1, 6-0, getting to Indiana, their chances of making the CFP are astronomically in their favor. Now, that's where the gauntlet really starts because you play Indiana, you go to Oregon, and you go to Columbus to play Ohio State. That's not really an easy end of the year slate for a lot of teams. But guys, do not sleep on Michigan. Bryce Underwood is in year 2. Okay. Did we forget that Michigan still has a pretty decent transfer portal class that they brought in? They brought in 16. Looked pretty good for the most part. You talk about you bring in Jamie French from Texas, who I thought is coming out of high school. Guys, he's fast, ridiculously fast. Top 10 receiver coming out of high school, number 52 overall player, and really, really good size for the most part. Physical in man-to-man. When he has a jump ball, he's going to win those matches 9 times out of 10. When he's left on an island, that's not really a good sign for you. So I think that this is going to be in Michigan's favor. I think you have a lot of underrated edge rushers as well. I have been a John Henry Daly fan for as long as I can remember. I've studied the tape of John Henry Daly. He's a guy that can play linebacker, get in a 3-tech and play defensive tackle, and then line up on the edge and play defensive end. He just does it all. And that's what I like so much about him. And that's why I firmly believe that you may have seen Aiden Hutchinson. Guys, I think that John Henry Daly could be better than Aiden Hutchinson. That's saying a lot. And that's a lot of high expectations to have for a guy that's coming in from Utah, that's coming off of a breakout year this past year. He's a projected first-round pick. Guys, his tape screams Aiden Hutchinson 2.0. Again, I understand it's a bit much to consider knowing the legacy of what Aiden Hutchinson left behind. A Heisman Trophy runner-up, one of the best Big Ten players that we've seen over the last 10 years. Guys, Aiden Hutchinson is a dangerous, John Henry Daly. If he puts on another 5 or maybe 10 pounds, who's to say that Michigan doesn't have a guy that's going to be a once-in-a-generation type of edge rusher? A guy that was highly, highly sought after coming from Michigan. Just saying. I think Taylor Tatum coming in from Oklahoma provides that gap that needs to be filled. For Oklahoma, he's going to be converting from running back, and he's going to go convert to being a safety now, which I thought was kind of interesting, knowing that Tatum wasn't necessarily a running back coming out of, or he wasn't really recruited as a safety coming out of high school. I know that he had played some at the high school level coming out of Longview High. I think he was a pretty good two-way player. But again, you're talking about a guy that was at one point the number 1 running back in the nation. So it's interesting, man. It is interesting. I do believe that they do have it wrong. But again, anything's possible. I don't know why Michigan has him listed as a safety. Like, is he transitioning to being a safety? Yeah. Okay. So he's gonna. Yes, he's going to start off in the safeties room. Which I'll be honest, I'm a bit surprised. I don't get why he's going to do that, but again, Michigan's running back depth, when you talk about Savion, guys, Savion Hyder is going to be crazy this year. Taylor Tatum might be one of the better safeties that Michigan needs. That's a position that I don't think he was expecting when he transferred to Michigan that he was going to be having to play that safety position. But I think Savion Hyder is going to be a day one starter whenever we get to the regular season. And I believe that with what Michigan has as a whole from an offensive perspective, they're going to be night and day so much better than they were last year. Bryce Underwood has a quarterbacks coach this time. I think he's going to show drastic improvements. He's going to make better decisions in the pocket. And I think that it's going to pay off eventually. That's why I think that he's in a very good position to potentially become a first-round draft eligible quarterback. Not this year, next year, though. Bryce Underwood has a lot of weapons around him. I think it should be business as usual for the Michigan defense. They get to 10 wins this year. If they can knock off Indiana at home, and if they can at least, even if they go 1-2 against Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State, they will be in the college football playoff. I firmly believe that. Barring what happens against Iowa and against Oklahoma, I think they'll be in the driver's seat for them to get that at-large berth into the CFP. Let's talk about some other teams that I think could potentially see themselves in the college football playoff. I think the Houston Cougars are a team that we should be looking out for. Dude, I mentioned this on Tuesday. The Big 12 championship and the participants in it is going to be decided throughout the month of September. I really, really, really believe that. Because let's talk about what Houston brings back from 2025. Number one, you bring in a guy like Connor Wigman, who had a phenomenal year last year. Absolutely great year. An absolute unit as a quarterback. Had a breakout season. A season that people have been waiting on him to have simply because he's just hasn't been healthy. And then you get him in a great system, and what does he do? He pops off. Slade Nagel was the guy for him at the end of the day. I think it was the perfect fit for him as a quarterback. He looks a lot more confident. And man, he made big plays when it mattered most for Houston. The Cougars are going to come into the Big 12 as, in my opinion now, with the Brennan Sorsby situation, I think that makes the Big 12 so much more wide open. So much more insane that we could be in for a wild, wild west that is known as the Big 12. Oklahoma State just became a contender. BYU's window opened. Their window was this far open. Now I think BYU's window is all the way open. Right now, I think if I am a bettor, I'm putting my chips on BYU, Arizona, and Houston as my front runners to be in the Big 12 discussion. We'll see what happens. Again, BYU also brings it sucks that Ryder Lyons is not playing right now, but good that you have Bear Bachmeier. Bear Bachmeier comes back for BYU, by the way. Even though you lose a guy like Parker Kingston, which that's a story for another day. You bring in Cade Ulave. A lot of people have liked his tape. Think he's got a bright future with BYU. I think he'll fit in that offense just fine. I think 2026 is going to be really, really special for BYU. This is their opportunity to get past the threshold of them making the Big 12 title and then finally breaking through as a playoff contender. But Houston, I think, in my opinion, has the most talent right now in the Big 12. Quarterback, experienced, and probably had one of the more unexpected seasons that we've seen. You talk about bringing back Mekhi Hughes, who's reunited with Willie Fritz. He was 1,000-yard back with him for 2 years at Tulane before he got lost in the mix at Oregon, ended up transferring back. You brought in Shadray Hurst, who was an all-AAC offensive guard, a guy that I think could be a top 100 player in the NFL draft, elite pulling guard, and a guy that I think is going to be a difference maker. Trent Walker was a phenomenal receiver at Oregon State and a guy that could turn out to be the number one receiver for Houston this upcoming season, you're obviously going to have to replace guys like Tanner Kozoil, who's now in the NFL draft. See what happens there. But man, you look at the guys that are coming from the portal, and you can look at the guys that came back after last year. It's hard to not put your chips on the Houston Cougars. They are really good this year, and they're coming back with a potential to be a contender for the college football playoff. I say the same thing about BYU. But the thing about it is, I've heard more talk about BYU being a contender than I have the Houston Cougars. That's why I put the Houston Cougars right there. Straight up. And I'll say the same thing about Arizona, too. My only concern about Arizona is what you're going to do defensively. But again, we don't know until we get to the actual season. But guys, let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comments section below. Thank you guys once again for hopping on inside the Southern sports scene. Do us a favor, like, share, subscribe down below. Turn on the bell notification. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your comments. We'll see you guys in the very next episode. We'll be back on Tuesdays, please. And y'all have a great rest of the night.